All right, so this is a bicameral system. It's a two-house legislature. The Senate is designed to represent the state equally, while the House of Representatives is designed to represent the population. And does anybody remember what compromise made this happen? Who wants to throw it in the chat? We had a major compromise during the Constitutional Convention. Anybody know it? No, that's okay. It is the Great Compromise or the Connecticut Compromise, known as both. You can go with either one, but it made, oh, there we go. We got Great Compromise. Yeah, okay. I'm just a little behind. Sorry. Jumped ahead of y'all. Connecticut Compromise, Great Compromise, Connecticut. Good. Okay, so y'all are right on it. So this made up this bicameral system. And so the different chamber sizes and constituencies influence the formality of debate. And so when we talk about formality of debate, we're talking about how like, what are the rules of decorum? So rules of decorum mean like basically the rules of how things are going to be run. We want a system that is going to actually work. And so you have to do that based on size. So when we think of the House of Representatives versus the Senate, the House of Representatives based on population is much larger than the Senate. So they have to have a lot more rules so that things run smoothly. So just think of House of Representatives, lots of rules of decorum are just lots of rules. And the Senate is less rules. It's a little more laid back. Maybe not like formality wise, but they don't have as many rules because it's less people. And so they have more freedom to like, just speak freely. So when we break it down right now, the Senate has 100 members. They are in term for 6 years and they have to be at least 30 years old, a citizen for the past 9 years, and a resident of the state they represent. The unique power of the Senate is that they provide advice and consent on treaties and presidential appointments. So this is anybody the president appoints, like maybe a SCOTUS member, the Senate gets to kind of offer their advice and consent basically by interviewing the person and then voting and deciding whether or not that person gets the confirmation. They also handle the trial of the impeached officials. And so we'll talk about that in a second, a little bit more. And then the House of Representatives is much bigger compared to the Senate at 100 members. It has 435 members. Their term length is also much shorter, only 2 years. And they have more lenient qualifications. They only have to be 25 years old, a citizen for the past 7 years, and a resident of the state which they represent. Their unique powers is they originate all revenue bills. And so when you hear revenue, think money. They also initiate impeachment documents. And so when they impeach somebody, remember when you're impeached, it doesn't mean you're removed from office. It just means they're brought the articles of impeachment together to start the process. Then that process moves to the Senate, and the Senate then hears the case for impeachment and then decides whether or not to vote the person out of office. Then they also break ties for president in the Electoral College for the House of Representatives. And then we just had a question, are we expected to know specific numbers? How will that be tested? I would be familiar with numbers, especially like what votes are 2/3 votes, what votes are 3/4 votes. I would know 6 years, 2 years, things like that. I would know basics. So those numbers, yes. I can't say exactly what's going to be on the AP test, like we don't know, but these are numbers you're going to want to at least be able to see and identify. I would know qualifications as well. Since all of these things are in the CED, our course exam description, I would know them. Sorry, I know that's probably not the answer you were hoping for, but yes, you're gonna wanna know this, make sure you know it. So when we talk about the structures and processes of the Senate and the House of Representatives, it's important to remember that the Senate is less centralized, where the House of Representatives is more centralized and more hierarchical. I'm sorry, I can't say that word. I try so hard and it doesn't really want to come out. Hierarchical. So in the Senate, committees don't have as much authority. They have a looser form of debate. They also have the filibuster that is allowed but limited by a cloture vote. And that filibuster is interesting because recently they've been trying to decide whether or not to get rid of it. And there's been talk of finding ways to remove that from the Senate, the filibuster. And so that has brought up a lot of controversy. And some people feel very strongly that we have a filibuster. Some people feel very strongly that we get rid of it. So that's just kind of an interesting current event tie. Also, the Senate focuses on foreign policy, and the leaders of the Senate are less powerful, except for the powerful majority leader. And so we'll talk about what it means to be a leader of the Senate or a leader of the House of Representatives in a few minutes. The House of Representatives is much more centralized and hierarchical. And when we talk about why they have such a hierarchy process, it's again, because they have so many people, they need a good system and they need lots of structure so that it doesn't turn into just mass chaos. They also have the Rules Committee, and the majority party is the one that controls the agenda of the House of Representatives. They also have limited debate time. So if you've ever watched a debate, it's actually very interesting. They'll say things like, Mr. Representative, you have X amount of minutes on the clock, and they can either choose to use them, or they'll say things like, I yield my time to Mrs. Senator from Minnesota. And so they can say, I see that I have time. I thank you for my time, but I'm choosing to give my time to someone, usually from my party, that's going to argue on my behalf. That might, know the case more. So, I've always thought that was interesting to watch, but it's very, very formal. And then, so yes, it was just important to remember less centralized in the Senate because they have less members or fewer members. So when you have fewer members, you're allowed to, you're just allowed a little more freedom because it doesn't need to be as controlled. Where with the House of Representatives, super big, lots of people, over 400 members. And so they just need to be able to control the chaos.